Have a good day again, class. Today I'm going to continue with our lecture on the input subsystem. Uh, how are you doing in our succeeding lecture? As I have announced, yes, this a couple of days or almost a week ago, there will be a change in the uh, modality or change in the delivery of the lecture. Now, within starting January, I will be lecturing on uh, in or shall I say, I'll be lecturing on asynchronous mode. But right now, I'm uploading materials for you to uh, see and also uh, check on my records or check on my Moodle classroom so that you can do it according to your own convenience. That means you can check it out after a while and then go back to it so that you'll be able to you would be able you would be guided rather on the things that you need to study on this material. Okay, last meeting I have uh, told you that this or I have lectured to you on the topic input subsystem, and then this input subsystem actually uh, also is divided into two. One is those inputs that are particularly used for production purposes, meaning to say the primary production, and those inputs that are also used in uh, processing or in the agro industries. An input actually that is also used as uh, for processing purposes. Now, we have started on the inputs on for say for primary or for primary production. We have discussed on fertilizer. We have discussed on labor. We have discussed on irrigation, and we have discussed on like uh, fertilizer. We have discussed that, and then this today we will tackle on another type of input, probably the last among the production type of input. We have the farm machinery or these prime movers or these machines and equipment used for farm production. And then after that, down the line, we will discuss on the inputs that are used also for like processing purposes. Okay, so without so much ado, we will continue with our lecture on we start with farm machinery and down the line we end up to the level on like inputs for primary or say for processing. Now this time we will start with farm machinery. Farm machinery actually is uh, represented or encompasses agricultural mechanization. Okay, agricultural mechanization, manufacturing, distribution, and operation of different types of tools, implements, and machines and equipment for farm production, also used for harvesting and even primary processing. These are the different types of farm machinery, and altogether aggregated as one particular subsystem or shall I say industry in the input system. We call them the farm machinery industry. Now, uh, in the interest of consistency, farm machinery has a prerequisite. You have partner of the, or shall I say, farm machinery is a prerequisite to a partner of industrial progress. Okay, so that means if you progress, if our agribusiness wants to progress industrially, we need to go into farm mechanization. Okay, and then we also have another points for this farm mechanization is that the power sources include human and animal and mechanical. So that means when it comes to farm machinery, we actually uh, consider the three types of power sources. We say human, animal, and mechanical. Now, in human power or human source of power, that is agricultural labor. But when we talk about farm mechanization, it's either an animal power, getting the source of power from an animal by pulling the plow or harrow, for example, and the mechanical mechanization. So this is almost like the excuse me. This is almost like the coverage, the entire coverage of or scope of farm machinery industry. Okay, now the use of farm machinery or farm machinery and equipment. So farm machinery is actually used for primarily for tillage, okay, for crop maintenance, for crop protection, for um, for spraying, for harvesting and post-harvest handling, and of course for transporting supplies and also products from farm to the market, and so on and so forth, and such and so. No? So these are the uses of farm machinery. Farm machinery also is designed to provide support to increase farm productivity. Farm machinery also reduces human drudgery. That means to say, it is expedite. It hasten. It make uh, so let's say farm activities more faster than usually doing it by manual power, which takes time, or the drudgery of human power will be addressed by farm mechanization. Okay, it also contributes to intensive cultivation, and even it enhances effectiveness, therefore, and efficiency of farm operation. Now, another very important significance of farm mechanization or farm machinery is that it addresses the shortage of labor. We know already that labor is somehow, especially it is seasonal, and everybody wanted to have to hire labor. Now, this kind of competition usually would result to shortages of labor, and mechanization is the solution for that. No, it's brought about by the shift from agricultural labor, plainly human power, to agro-industrial. Okay. For in the case of increasing productivity, of course, we have discussed that it reduces human drudgery, no, and of course, for farm effectiveness, it is going to provide the ability to shift from agricultural labor to agro-industrial labor, no, and then if we come to think about farm machinery in general, we are also talking about the the situation not only from a global scale, but also particularly we are very much interested on the farm mechanization situation in the Philippines. How do we characterize the farm mechanization or farm machinery industry in the Philippines? In the Philippines, farm machinery industry is characterized by import dependence. Okay, basically we import a lot of uh, like uh, engines and parts when it comes to farm mechanization. Another characteristic of farm mechanization in the Philippines is that it locally manufactured are the power tillers, sprayers, seeders, and harvesters, threshers, and irrigation pumps. And then you will notice that there is also a low demand on or low demand to low utilization of agricultural machines in the Philippines. This is another characteristic of farm mechanization in the Philippines. While Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea uses uh, farm power from 1.5 to 5 horsepower per hectare, Philippines only uses zero point 0.7 horsepower per hectare, practically or basically low compared to our Asian neighbors. Okay, so that is the characteristic of farm mechanization in the Philippines. Another thing, Filipino farmers demand small machines because of our fragmented land areas. Now, this demand, these machines, is affected by the availability of credit also, because we cannot buy expensive machines and we do not have the finances to support the buying of that particular equipment. Production is so limited to small rice mills, dryers, power tillers, and also hand tractors. No? Now, likewise, production growth in small machines grew by 50% during the last 5 years, which is rather slow. Okay, major source of imports of farm machineries is Japan. Now, we have uh, locally manufactured machines though, but the prime movers, meaning to say the engines actually are imported. We don't manufacture the engines in the Philippines, but we only like uh, we only manufacture or develop the equipment that goes with the engine, and the engine is the most expensive, but we need to import them because it's not made in the Philippines. We do not have the manufacturing capability to make make an engine or the prime mover. The major source of import, of course, is Japan. No, most importantly, there is an industry association supporting the farm machinery in the Philippines. That is the AMDA, or the Agricultural Machinery Manufacturers and Distribution Association. Now, the AMDA is the spokesperson of the industry. 70% of AMDA members are manufacturers and distributors. Okay, smaller machineries are manufactured domestically by small, we call it a fly-by-night fabricators, but most commonly bought items are the power tillers, threshers, shellers, pumps, and also engines. But as I have said, engines, which is the prime mover, are basically imported. Now, who are the maybe major players of like the farm machinery in the Philippines? We have some examples here. One is Alpha Machinery and Engineering Corporation, which which also represented or partnered by Kanto International. Okay, Kubota Engines, Kubota Agro-Industrial Machinery Philippines. This is the this is actually a local subsidiary of Kubota in Japan. Okay, then we also have the Sea Commercial Company. Okay, we also have the Tramat Mercantile. These are basically the key players of the farm machinery industry in the Philippines. Most most machineries and equipment for agricultural agribusiness actually are coming or manufactured or developed by these major players of the farm machinery industries. Now, what are the issues in the farm machinery industry in the Philippines? Okay, what are the issues? There is low level of mechanization due to high import cost, high cost of money available to credit. You have also local manufacturers have difficulty in competing with imported products. Okay, now our local manufacturers only are capable of fabricating the gadget that connects with the engine, but the one that really moves everything, the prime mover, is actually imported. And basically, when we think about importation of farm machineries, we also refer to importation from Japan and some others from other ASEAN countries, but basically from Japan. And then another issue is that medium and medium and large scale farms are hesitant to increase investment due to the threat of carp. By the way, why do we have to be threatened about carp? Farm machineries have, say for example, uh, required scale of operation, meaning to say they are designed for certain, say for example, certain specific areas of specific land area. Okay, now you cannot use a huge tractor with a very small land area. Okay, now with the grand reform program in the Philippines, now rice and other crops on other those are covered by CARP are actually subdivided into various fragmentations. And this fragmentation also really would require a different kinds of machines that suits the specific area. In other words, with the fragmented land area, the it complicates the need for a specific machinery that is suited for such a scale. Now, there is a proposal or there is even a move to develop a machine that are flexible or scale neutral, but that still remains a proposal. We haven't really uh, gone that far because our machines are imported from other countries. And then when you import from other countries, the specifications for a particular land area is different. That's why it's also different. It's also difficult to customize it here in the Philippines. Okay. Now, you have, what are the various types of machineries? Okay, the various types of machineries. One is two-wheel, the hand tractors, four-wheel hand tractors, rice threshers, corn shellers, pumps, carabao, whatever, the carabao drone still used by small farmers. These are the types of farm machineries we use in the on the farm. And then we also have sprayers, greenhouses, tissue culture equipment, and also nets for orchid farming or even for protective cropping, no? For vegetables basically. Now, here is a data that will show us the number of the number of equipment, or the number of equipment in the Philippines. Uh, this is based on the 2012 census. Okay. Now, when it comes to say for example, plow, you have 2 million, harrow 1 million, 1.6 million, and then sprayer 1.9 million, and then you have 1.5 million for tractor, and then the number of equipment in Region 8 basically. This is a census from 2002, which needs updating. You have plow is 122,000, harrow 85,000, and so on, tractor with 73,000. Now, furthermore, we also have a data here, okay? A data which is from 1980 to 2002, okay? This is an equipment census which was done during that year. Although it needs updating because this is rather relatively more than 10 years old already in terms of it's being it's in terms of the update that is needed, but we can already say, for example, uh, uh, say project, or even we can already have a the needed conclusion in terms of what is happening with our farm machinery industry. No, now take for example the black color here in the graph. The black color signifies plowing. Okay, the blue also signifies harrowing. Now, the gray, which is sprayer, you also can see that, and tractor, which is also colored green. Now, from 1960 to 2002, basically, it is dominated by equipment used for land preparation, which is plowing and harrowing. If you come to really see the graph, land preparation equipment dominates our farm machinery industry. Now, what is that all about? What about? What if we are dominated by, like for example, land preparation equipment? In other words, there are more that can be desired in terms of making farm operation more efficient and also more value adding if we are going to uh, diversify or even expand those other areas of farm activities that needs to be mechanized. Okay? In other words, we have a very huge room for improvement in terms of farm mechanization. Even this time, no? Now, the use of mechanization in the Philippines, Philippine agriculture, has been low ever since, no? The current mechanization level is the current. It has improved from zero point 0.7 to 1.68 horsepower per hectare, and is far below the Asian countries such as Korea and China, which uses about 4.11, or you have 3.88 horsepower per hectare. Okay, the more, uh, the higher the horsepower, so let's say, requirement or index, the more efficient your farm operation becomes. No, so you have here another situation where our mechanization also in the Philippines is really dominated by rice and corn farm, say crops, rice and corn crops, which occupies about 21%. The rest of the mechanization actually uses manual, or the rest of the crops actually uses manual labor. and also animal power in the production activities. Okay. Now, another thing, there is a sheer inadequacy of after-sales service or substandard machines for farm machineries in the Philippines. No? So, in other words, our farm machineries are not supported by after-sales support, no? Which is very lamentable because the moment your farm machineries gets broken down, it's difficult to repair, and there is no guarantee that it will be repaired with a certain warranty that you can be assured that it is going to be fixed very quickly. No, you have to wait. You have to look for a particular fabricator that can probably fix your broken machines. That is the difficult thing because the farm operation will be delayed if there is a breakdown experience in the farm activities. Okay. Another another thing is that that is the farm machinery situation. No? Basically, import dependence and dependent. It's also dominated by, say, for example, uh, this dominated by importation of prime movers, but it's not the only locally manufactured in among farm machineries is actually also more of the gadget is connected with the prime mover, and it's not that expensive. So what is more say expensive are the prime movers. And another thing, to conclude with the farm machineries, our farm machinery industry in the Philippines also is basically dominated by land preparation equipment. There is very little to none equipment on use in, like for example, spraying, post-harvest, and others, which is also very essential for more value-adding, more value-adding options. Okay. Now, with that, we proceed now to another type of input, which is irrigation and drainage. Now, in irrigation and drainage, increase the 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 use or the significance of irrigation and drainage input. We have irrigation increases the use of land because it allows planting during dry season. Meaning to say, making the maximal use of land because it now allows uh, more than one production cycle because of the availability of water. Okay. Another use of for irrigation and drainage, it increases farm productivity because there are crops, especially rice and also vegetables, that really uses water more fully because they are water consuming crops. And if there is drought, it's going to be a problem for the agricultural production. Now, it also provides avenue for crop diversification. If you can control water, you can control the quantity and the flow and even the distribution. It can increase crop diversity and therefore increase possibility for earning more in a piece of party in one particular piece of property or land area. More fully, irrigation also is usually accompanied by drainage facility to avoid water lagging. No? Now, the status of irrigation development in the Philippines. As of 2016, total irrigable areas in the Philippines is about 3,126,340. That's about 3.13 million uh, hectares of land that are irrigable. Now, these irrigable areas, the service area of irrigation system in the Philippines, the national irrigation is only has only irrigated about 706,000. There are communal irrigation system which only irrigates about 554,000 hectares. Private irrigation with 174. In other words, the total irrigated area in the Philippines is only about 1.4 million hectares. You can see the disparity. Total irrigable and the total irrigated areas. It's almost like, uh, 50%, or like there is still another 50% or 100% of the total irrigated area that needs to be irrigated. That's a huge amount or huge area to think about. No, now in the Philippines also we only have our irrigation development is only about 46% also of the total potential for irrigation. Okay, now what are the sources of irrigation? Major irrigation projects in the Philippines. Now we have from here on we have the Magat irrigation system where there is a reservoir, and then you have the Pampanga irrigation system in Nueva Ecija, the Angat Maasim River irrigation in Bulacan, and maybe there are a few others, no? The Angat and other areas, but this reservoir or irrigation system has to really weigh in terms of what the volume of water that is needed for like supplying water to Metro Manila and the volume of water that is going to be supplied for crops. Now we have to understand that in case of drought, the priority is for water system in Metro Manila for human consumption. That's why even if there is an irrigation system, if there is a drought, there's going to be a the farms will really be dry because the priority is for human for potable water or human for household consumption or household use, no? So that is also the situation. There are times that we have so much for irrigation, we have so much for water, but more often the dry period some more often extend to a certain like length of time that our crops will also suffer. Okay, in case of conflict in the use, the priority is always household consumption of water. What are the problems and issues in the irrigation development in the Philippines? One is poor rollover scheme of projects, meaning to say projects have not been paying uh, uh, paying the necessary so for example replenishing the necessary investment for that irrigation project, because if we build irrigation system, we get a loan from World Bank or wherever it will be available. Now, since this irrigation will be used for, or this water will be used for irrigation, naturally the government through the National Irrigation Administration will collect fees, irrigation fees. But the collection of fees has been very stagnant to very slow, and the rollover scheme, the period in which we can replenish the investment used in for irrigation system is really become very problematic. But this time on, we have changed the policy. In the irrigation system providing water for crops in the lowland areas, the government gives free irrigation. And what the government hopes will be the added value in terms of productivity that can be generated with free irrigation water will somehow compensate the gross value added to production, will somehow compensate the needed investment that needs to be replenished from the government coffers. But that still remains to be seen because the free irrigation was just implemented in 2017. Okay, so it remains to be seen how the free irrigation policy would impact on improving production or productivity in agriculture. The structural inefficiency also is one issue. In other words, how the the management of irrigation is not is responding to the needs of the people or the farmers that are needing irrigation. Another thing is the weather and climatic factors is also affecting is also an issue because there are times that we really have to uh, devise a scheme in which we can we can hit the balance between household consumption of water and agricultural consumption of water. Okay, the policy environment of the irrigation development in the Philippines, well, in terms of policy environment, it has changed this time where the government is giving free irrigation water. But as I said, what will you, what will the, what will the, what can you expect if water cannot be cannot be cannot serve everybody, it would still amount to the same thing. Less uh, likely that production will increase. But hopefully, we need to improve on the distribution of water so that in one particular area, everybody gets an ample supply of water across the length of the growing periods. Hopefully, that is the focus of the National Irrigation Administration, uh, say, activities. Okay. Now, those are the last two inputs in agricultural, or shall I say, agribusiness subsystem, input subsystem that are primarily used for what? For production purposes. Now let's go to inputs for agro industries or inputs for processing. Now, as you can see from the slide, there is a picture of livestock. Now these are outputs of production that can be used for input in the processing or the agro industries. Okay, inputs for agro industries. One is crops. Okay, of course, if you have, for example, mango, it can be an input for other high value products. If you have, say, for example, a, uh, a say, for example, abaca, it can be an input for processing of pulp. If you have sweet potato, it can be an input for other processed items. If you have, like, for example, say, cassava, it can be an input for alcohol production, or it can be an input for manufacture of feeds. Okay, so these are the different types of inputs that are basically supporting the processing, the agro industries. Okay. Now, in terms of crops, okay, we have crops, livestock, and others. No. Now, in terms of crops, the gross value added of agricultural output amounted to 849 billion. Gross value added. What do we mean by that? Gross value added. Okay. When we say gross, how do you, if we say gross value added, what is that? Gross value added, meaning to say the gross income. Okay, the gross income, or the gross, in agribusiness, gross sales, if we may call it, or the gross income, or the gross revenue. Okay, now the 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 value added in agriculture will be the total investment minus the, the total value of agricultural output minus investment. That is the, like, for example, the value addition to agriculture. Now, if you deduct other parts there, then that will be the net value of agricultural output. Now, the gross value of crop production was 450, no, billion, 450 billion in crop production at the current price, because at current price there is also an adjustment, no, in terms of the value, no? Now, crop subsector shares in agricultural output is 46%, no? In crop production, in crop subsector, the share is about 446%. That means the remaining 53, or yeah, 53% comes from value addition from non-agricultural output, no? Maybe to say from processing. Okay. Now, in terms of crops, the input. Okay, in terms of crops, we have examples of grains, rice and corn, cabbage. You have vegetables and legumes, fruits, fruit crops, ornamentals, and others. And then these are the examples of crops under this crops category. Okay, the fruits for processing, vegetables and spices for also for processing, and also ornamentals for other purposes. Okay, now for crops, basically, we have also perennial crops, industrial crops, and then you have fruit, nuts, vegetables, and other tree crops. Okay, now industrial crops are basically coconut, sugarcane, and you can put there abaca also, and other things. Now, in terms of livestock, in terms of livestock, The livestock is used for processing further into processed meat. Okay, processed meat. Now, the livestock subsector of agriculture consists of hogs, carabao, cattle, and goat, and even sheep. You may include sheep. Swine and cattle production accounts for a large portion of the livestock sector production. The prospects of this industry is bright. There is really a good prospects for the livestock industry. Only that in the case of swine, it's plagued with the African swine flu, causing a really a sharp reduction in output of in the swine industry also. Now it's really problematic in that sense. Sorry. Now the prospect of this industry is still bright because there is a persistent demand. We import a lot of these meat products from other countries in order to support our increasing demand for protein in the country. And you can see that this one are the examples of hogs for really for processing into further uh, meat processing, no? And then you have also animal production inputs include the following, no? So crops and livestock, these are used for production of processed meat products. We also have animal production inputs. Okay. Now in livestock, we have animal production inputs. Also for agribusiness, you have breeds of animals, you have feeds, you have animal health products, and farm structures. Okay. So in terms of animal breeds, you will notice that hogs dominates the major players of animal breed animal breeds uh, players in the country, animal breeding animals rather in the country. These are some of the key players, and you will notice that these are all foreign corporations, say operating in our country to provide us with the up to date breeds of animals for our livestock industry. As far as hogs is concerned, we also have animal breeds for broiler. Okay, again, these are all imported. In other words, we import these broiler breeding stocks, and also for layer, also more imported. No? So we import a lot of this breeding stock and do the breeding ourselves here and produce the, for example, the parent stock or for the island-born stock for our animal, say, industry. Now, what about breeds in the local area? We have few. Say for example, breeder farm in the Philippines to also support our needs for breeding animals, but only very few. We have International Swine and Genetics Incorporated or SG Inframco. Infarmco. You have the Jaltas Agro Industrial Corporation and John Farms, Luz Farms, and Haro Development Corporation. Only very few of them players in the uh, genetics of breeds of animals for our livestock industry. Now, another is we have also uh, genetically modified inputs. Now, genetically most modified inputs can either be crop or livestock. In the crop, it's in vegetables, some vegetables, and potatoes, root crops, and also genetically modified for cereals like corn, no? Which also supports the what the feed industry and other industries also. Now, Asia will be the fastest growing region in terms of meat and dairy consumption, which will translate in growing demand for feeds. In order to produce feeds uh, more productively, we need to go genetic modification. Okay, it is still a strong debate in a lot of in many of forums in the agriculture sector in terms of the the like for example the advantages and disadvantages of genetically modified like for example inputs, but nothing has been proven to really negate the good effect of genetically modified genetically modified say for example crop or livestock in order to fast track production of this crop and livestock to support the burgeoning, the increasing needs or the increasing demand for cereals and other, like for example, needs for food and feed consumption. No, now in a genetically modified, say for example, inputs, we have some breeder farms in the Philippines. In the Philippines, GM corn, genetically modified corn, imports soybean for feeds. Okay, so soybeans is also, some of them are genetically modified, which is actually used for feed manufacturing. Okay. Now we also have production inputs for feeds. Okay, production inputs. There are, uh, for example, the feed industry provides support for the livestock industry, and it's linked with corn and other feed ingredients in the industry. Corn is actually 50 to 60% uh, shall I, composition in feed formulation or feed, shall I say, uh, feed milling industries. 70% of the production cost is actually brought about by these feed milling industries coming from or derived from corn-based feeds. No? Feed users account for 70% of the total corn output in the Philippines. No, so it's basically, Philippines is basically rice eater, but a certain proportion of that, say 37%, comes from like the locally grown corn for food. But mostly 70% of our corn output is actually used for feeds. Okay, now the feed milling industry. This also again supports the livestock industry and also supports other livestock industry operation. Now, let's go to the feed milling industry. What is happening with the feed milling industry? No, the feed milling industry. You have the livestock, poultry, and aquaculture feeds, which is also feed milling industry. Also operates in the, like for example, other types of feed formulation, like for pets, which is growing, is an actively growing demand. And other types of feeds. Here we have, traditionally we have livestock, poultry, and aquaculture feeds. Now, large scale uh, feed milling operates 100 metric tons per day. Medium scale, 50 to 99 tons metric tons per day. And small scale, we have 50 metric tons, less than 50 metric tons per day of operation. There are about 600 um, major players in this industry. No, 600 major players. Can you imagine? But there are only five major players. Five key players in the feed milling and this. Why are they called key players? Now kaning mga five key players, you have San Miguel, you have Pure Foods, you have Vitarich, you have Robina, ano? Robina, and then you also have the General Milling. Five giants in the feed milling industry. Why are they called major players or giants in the feed milling industry? They control the corn importation. Okay, corn, remember, is about 50 to 60% of the feed ingredients. Major ingredient, corn. And this one, these five major players actually controls the importation. In what way? They have a concession to import certain quantity of, like, volume of corn. If you are a new player, you have to secure like certain volume sa ila, mukuha ka, mupalit ka certain volume para ma-appeal ka sa importation. So it's not really a easy to enter as an industry also. It's controlled by five major players. Now the top producer in the feed milling industry, you have in NCR, you have Southern Tagalog, Central Luzon, and other key players. Now, this time, Mindanao is catching up. Okay, Mindanao is catching up, but the position also of NCR and Southern Tagalog is actually cannot still be neglected. These five major players: General Milling, Swift, or Vitarich, and then you have Purina, Universal Robina, Nutrimix, and even San Miguel. They position themselves in this key strategic location. Why is it in CR? Why is it Southern Tagalog? Any guess? The reason for that is importation is made quick. Importation and also sourcing of raw materials, imported raw materials, is accessible if you position your feed mill close to the no the the port where the imported stocks of corn will land into the Philippine soil. So ana man ang dunggo ng barko sa NCR. So you have to be close to NCR like Southern Tagalog. Or in Mindanao, you have to be close to the source of feeds, which is shall we say, corn, like in Bukidnon. That's why in Mindanao this time, particularly in Cagayan de Oro, these different feed mills, these different feed mills are also operating there because they want to capture the abundance of corn supply in Mindanao, which is in Bukidnon and somewhere in Cotabato also. No, so the entry of imported corn also will be in Cagayan de Oro City, which is an international port. So basically, sourcing and accessing of raw materials is the reason why these feed mills are actually close to these different areas. Top three imports: corn meal, soybean meal, and fish meal. Fish meal is the source of protein. Corn is the source of carbohydrates. Fish meal and soybean meal are protein sources for feeds. Okay? Now, key players, no? Key players in the feed milling industry in the Philippines. As we have said, these are the key players. I have mentioned it a while ago. San Miguel, Swift Foods, Vitari, or shall I say Pure Foods, Vitarich, Universal Rubina, and then Purina and Superfeeds Corporation. Okay? Superfeeds Corporation. Now, later on, I want to give you say for example an assignment to give to submit to me a profile, okay, a profile, corporate profile of the feed milling business of these different corporations, this different corporation. I would like to give that as an assignment. Profile, corporate profile of this of their feed milling operation of these different uh, say these major players. Okay, I want to give that later on. No? Now, in the feed milling industry or feed industry, there are key issues in the feed milling industry. One is availability of major raw materials, corn. Okay, because we need to import corn because the productivity of corn in the Philippines is still very low. It's still 1.5 tons per hectare. Okay, and it's there is also a declining area planted to corn because of competition for settlement and other use. No, 1.5 tons per hectare is fairly low because other countries have 3.5, even 6 tons per hectare. They can do that. No, there is also high transport cost of feeds or corn from the farm to the nearest like feed processing or feed milling. Now, in other countries, according to information, it is cheaper to transport a kilo of yellow corn from Bangkok to Manila than to transport a kilo of yellow corn from General Santos to Manila. Okay? Or from General Santos to Manila. That's why ang mga feed mill nagpaduol sa Mindanao, they are congregating, no? Naa sila tanan dito sa in Cagayan de Oro because Cagayan de Oro is closer to the source of raw materials, major raw materials, which is basically yellow corn in Mindanao. Now, another is substitution of lower price products such as wheat resulting from a low quality feeds. Another, heavy dependence on importation. And another thing pag yun, inadequate storage facilities. Dali madaot ang atong corn kay wa tay maayong post-harvest processing. Sometimes dugay ma-transport ang corn from the field to the nearest dryer. Even the dryer, gamay ra tag facility. And then when the corn arrives at the feed milling for processing, the drying is a problem because we have a very inclement weather condition. You really do not know when is there going to be a rain, and there's going to be a sunshine. Sometimes in the day it rains, and more frequently than having a sunshine, it's a problem for drying. Okay, and it corn, once it is attacked by molds, it's no longer fit for livestock consumption. And then another is market links from in the feed and livestock industry. Okay, so there is really a uh, a labyrinth of various problems in the feed milling industry. No, that's why the most efficient, the most efficient feed milling operation are operated by the large, the five key or the five or six major players, because they have already almost perfected the economies of scale operation. If you are a small player, maybe your output is only good for your livestock, but it's very difficult to compete when it comes to the private or the commercial market. That's why it's the feed industry, the feed milling industry is dominated by this key major or the five major players in the industry. Another is opportunities for the feed milling industry. Corn will maintain a robust growth rate. No? So there is really a need to support our corn production. Okay, that is an opportunity because we can grow corn. There are a lot of places where we can grow corn profitably. So we need to support in order to support the corn production sector, so that we can also boast the feed milling industry, which uses 70% of corn, like for operation. No, feed millers prefer imported of corn grain to avoid contamination issues. Okay, so if we can improve on the post-harvest handling of corn grits or corn grains, or even the corn, then we will improve on the quality of our uh, corn for milling and for feed purposes. No, so these are issues we can consider it as an opportunity, because there is a huge excess demand for corn in the Philippines. No? Now, another is investment in poultry and feed sector has picked up in recent years. So that means when there is an increase in demand for feeds brought about by poultry, and feed sector will always benefit on that, because the poultry industry is a huge consumer of the feeds that we have in the Philippines. Okay, Cargill poultry meats production have a, a, a value of market value of 17.5 million US dollars. And you have Vitarich also in Mindanao in 2016. And even you have uh, 9 million US dollars for in pig farming in feed milling project in Tarlac. So these are the actively growing investment in the feed milling industry as a response to an excess demand, huge excess demand for feeds in the livestock sector. Okay, so so that is for feeds. We go to now to the animal production inputs. Okay, animal production inputs. The breeds of animals that are used for our livestock industries. For swine, you have these different breeds. Most commercial swine farms maintain sow that produces piglets for fattening. Breed selection is important, or good breeds deliver good production, no, performance. So in other words, there is a need to maintain a good breeding stock for our livestock in order to compete in the market, because the competition now, okay, the competition now is how to respond quickly to the demand in the market. Niadto mo produce ka og 100 kilograms nga 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 po ang ano nga full grown, like for example pig or swine, it would take you about 5 to 6 months. Now the technology now is on feeding competition for improving the feed and also metabolism. You can now grow a full grown 100 kilogram uh, swine or pig in in about 3 to 4 months only. In other words, the technology now, the state of technology has shortened the growing period, which will now translate into faster response or quicker response to the increasing excess demand, no, in the market. So another is animal health products like the biologics, vitamins, antibiotics, and other drugs for maintaining a healthy animal stocks. Now, in this particular situation, it's really, it's really also a clear and present reality in our country that we import almost all of them. Even vaccine for our livestock, we import them. We don't, our vaccination, say for example, technology is still far below the level of technology in other countries. That's why we import a lot. And then the drawback there is our response to epidemic is really also affected because we still need to import the vaccine. And who knows, you can import it very quickly. More often than not, it takes time to import, and it takes time also for to do diagnosis because uh, the technology for diagnostic facility, especially for novel kind of epidemic, really has to depend on the sophisticated equipment from other countries. That's why we really need to, for animal health, no, we are not yet talking about human health, but for animal health on maintaining a good stocks of medicines, vitamins, and vaccines, we actually depend for imported material. That's why we need also, it's an opportunity and a challenge to develop our manpower doing this particular work in the industry. Now, in our country, most of the pharmaceuticals or drug company for animal health products actually are multinationals. Only very few, if there are, local manufacturers for animal health products. There are 97 major players, but more major players in the animal health products in the Philippines. But more the, but more are in the marketing sector. In other words, nag-import lang, ibaligya diri sa ato. We don't really see like common. It's not common in the Philippines that major players are actually manufacturers also. Bayer Philippines, Novartis, Pfizer, these are multinational corporations. They just distribute the animal health product. We don't have, only if there are very few. Agribio maybe is manufacturing uh, animal health products for Philippines, but most major players are actually what they are actually producing these biologics and other animal health products in other countries, and we just have to import them. Okay, other major players in animal health industry: Shiba, Santi, Fort Dodge, Hipra, Merck Sharp, Mirial, Pacifica Agribit, again Pfizer, Plaridel Products, and San Miguel Aliman Healthcare. Okay, there are also a handful of locally locally manufactured animal health products, but most, if not all, are actually imported from other countries. So in other words, our agribusiness input sector, from whatever major inputs, are actually import dependence. So we really need to manage this part of our economy, importation, in order to carefully support our agribusiness input subsystem. Okay, so what are the key issues in the animal health products? Continuous dependence of the import. Okay, underdeveloped local industry. We have explained that, and then local prices highly vulnerable to peso dollar exchange rate. This time, it's actually during the previous times, no, during the previous times, the peso is very volatile. In other words, very fluctuating in terms of like exchange rate with respect to other major currencies in the whole world. But without any bias, since 2016 and even until this time, our peso remains to be strong. That is an indication that our economy is really uh, has a relative health, economic health, because our currency is relatively stronger. Example, our peso now for quite more than a year, even with the pandemic, has maintained a 48 peso to a dollar. Before, it was 55, it was even 60, it was even something above 50. But this time, it's 49. The highest was 50, and then we have 49, and now it's 48. Despite the pandemic, sorry, relatively comparably with other currency, we maintain. Imagine the ratio between Japanese yen and Philippine peso. The 46 centavo exchange rate for Japanese yen has been maintaining for quite a while now. Sorry. Even with euro, okay, euro has maintained at 50, 56, 57. Before it was before 2016, it was like 64, 65. Okay, so this is something that can be taken advantage in order to support our import dependent input subsystem, because we import a lot. With our currency becoming stronger, our our capacity to buy this animal health product, for example, and other imports will be relatively stable and tractable, no? Unlike kung fluctuating siya, you wouldn't really know uh, how much how much volume can you buy with a very fluctuating currency. Okay? Now, overall, the general characteristic of the input sector dominated by few say, large-scale firms. From production inputs to agro-processing inputs, the same, dependent on imported raw materials in the case of agro-processing. And then another characteristic, or yeah, coordinated by strong industry association. There are various industries, feed milling industry association, you have uh, livestock industry association, and several industry association. That is how far can we go in terms of supporting. And it's very essential because these industry associations provides a window of support to our agribusiness um, agribusiness firms operating in the input subsector. Another characteristic, our input subsector or subsystem is threatened by high supplier bargaining position. Obviously, because we are importing, the supplier from the imported market has an axe to grind. In other words, they have a strong bargaining position against us or uh, to us. In other words, they can control the market while we are, price taker. Ug pila iling ihatag sa ato, wa tay mahimo. No? Wa tay mahimo because wala man, we are a small country, and I say, for example, we don't manufacture the products here in the Philippines. If we manufacture our products, we would possess a strong bargaining position in the market. We can negotiate. If you are not going to give us this much of volume and price, we will resort to our locally manufactured product. Something like that. Bargaining position. We have a very low bargaining position because we are import dependent. Okay, so this is the picture of the input industry in the country. Now, here, this input industry. This ends now the lecture on the input industry from the different types of input. They have production inputs and the agro processing inputs, and then now we summarize in terms of what is going on from a broader perspective. What is going on in the agribusiness input subsystem? Okay, now from this lecture, this will now be a stepping stone in terms of understanding or anticipating what's going to happen in the different firms operating in the input industry, and how we can probably provide an environment by which we can support the profitability and even the efficiency of these various firms operating in the input subsystem. Okay, as I have said, there are various players in the input industry. I'm going to give you like a special assignment after this to submit as an assignment. It's a graded assignment for all of you, the profile of those major input major firms operating in the input subsector. I'm going to post that here in our Moodle classroom, or I'm going to give you that in the in the chat room that we have, so that you would be guided which of these you have to do some searching in the on the web. and submit the profile. And I'm going to give you also the format. What is in that profile? Unsay sulod ni ana para you can just do web search. No need to go to the library, but just on the internet, search for these different corporations or business establishment and about like operating in the feed milling industry, operating in the like for example the livestock industry, and various types of inputs, operating in the animal health products. These are the various types of uh, different inputs and with specific firms in the industry, and submit to me the profile of these various firms for our added understanding in terms of what actually is happening in these various uh, input in various firms operating in the input subsector or subsystem. So with that, I thank you, and I will also specific assignment. You access these lecture materials in my Moodle classroom, okay, and then you also keep in touch for further instruction in terms of our exam, which will be posted in a week or two from now. As I have said, this particular lecture, you access this at your own pace. No need to be pressured during your Christmas break, but at least you have something to go back when you return for our classroom on the first week of January. Okay? But between now until the first week of January, I will upload uh, maybe one, two, or three lecture materials for you to really go back and search through after January. No, I mean after December, January first week, so that by January until February, it's going to be busy months. Okay, for this time, break lang una, and then we'll see each other in January. But if you have time during the break, just look up our Moodle classroom and our group chat to see what are actually inside already in our classroom. But I'm not going to require you to submit anything during the break. All submissions must be done during the January resumption of classes in January. So with that, I thank you, everybody, and I will see you in my model classroom. Okay, so you have uh, you have to